I waited for hours outside his hostel, in the cold night, with a cake to be the first to him. But when midnight came, he was already one with another girl inside. I still remember the weight of that chocolate cake in my hands. 3 layers. Decorated with terrible handwriting that spelled, "Happy Birthday," in frosting that cost me $40 I didn't have. My fingers were numb from standing outside his apartment building for 2 hours, waiting for midnight to strike. I was so proud of for being the thoughtful girlfriend. The one who remembered, cared enough to surprise him, at exactly 12:01 a.m. on his birthday. But when I finally got the courage to knock on his door, I heard laughter. Multiple voices. Music playing softly. The warm glow of candles flickered through the window. He opened the door with frosting on his lip. "Sarah. What are doing here?" His face went white. Behind him, I could see her. The girl from his study group. The one he said was just a friend. She was holding a slice through a cake that looked exactly like mine. Except better. Professional. The kind get from an actual bakery, instead of attempt to make at 9 p.m., because we're broke but trying to be romantic. I wanted to be the first to happy birthday. I whispered, holding my pathetic homemade disaster. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. She appeared behind him, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. Completely comfortable in his space. In our space. The apartment I helped him move into. Where I'd left my toothbrush and spare clothes and dreams of our future. "That's all," he said. "Just, oh." I could see it all in that moment. The way she fit into his so easily. How she probably didn't have to beg him to out or wonder why he took hours to text back. She was everything I wasn't. Confident where I was clingy. Successful where I was struggling. Beautiful in that effortless way that made me feel invisible. "I should go," I said, but my feet wouldn't move. "Sarah, wait, let me explain." But what was there to explain? I could see the 2 glasses on his counter. The way she looked at him with familiarity. Not like someone who was just helping with calculus. The intimate way she touched his arm, when she whispered something in his ear. I set the cake down on the hallway floor and walked away. Behind me, I heard him call my name once. Just once. Then his door clicked shut. And I knew with devastating clarity, that I'd already been replaced, before I even knew I was being replaced. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing that while I was planning surprises and counting down minutes until his birthday, he was building something real with someone else. While I was trying so hard to be the perfect girlfriend, he was discovering what perfect actually felt like. And it wasn't me. I drove home with tears blurring my vision, my phone buzzing with his texts. Apologies mixed with excuses. "It's not what it looks like." Followed by, "She's been helping me through some stuff." Followed by, "I never meant for this to happen." But it did happen. And I had been too blind, too desperate, too in love to see it coming. The cake was probably still sitting in his hallway. A testament to my stupidity. A monument to the fact that sometimes love isn't enough. And trying harder, just makes look more pathetic. I spent the rest of the night, staring at the ceiling. Replaying every warning sign I'd ignored. Every time he'd been distant. Every excuse about being busy. Every time I'd convinced that his lack of enthusiasm was just stress from school. I'd been so focused on being the kind of girlfriend I thought he wanted that I never stopped to ask if he actually wanted a girlfriend at all. The answer was apparently yes. Just not me. When morning came, I had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. All from him. All saying the same thing in different ways: he was sorry. It was complicated, I deserved better, could we please talk? But I was done talking. Done explaining why I felt. Done competing with someone who'd already won without even trying. I blocked his number and started the slow process of untangling our lives. Collecting my things from his apartment while he was at class. Explaining to our mutual friends why we wouldn't be coming to parties together anymore. Watching them choose sides, and realizing most of them were picking his. The hardest part was admitting to that I saw it coming and chose to ignore it. Every red flag was painted in bright, obvious colors. But I convinced they were just bumps in the road. Speed bumps. We'd laugh about someday, when we were married with kids, and a mortgage, and all the things I'd planned out in my head during those long Lonely nights when he was too busy to out. I wasn't the victim of some cruel twist of fate. I was the architect of my own heartbreak. Building castles in the air, while the foundation crumbled beneath my feet. 3 months later, I saw their engagement photos on Instagram. She was wearing the ring I'd pointed out to him at the mall 6 months earlier. The one I'd saved on my Pinterest board under Future Dreams. I finally understood what people meant when they said some wounds never heal. They just teach to walk differently around the places that. But here's about being the one who got left behind. The worst part, losing them isn't losing them. It's losing the version of that believed were worth fighting for. 6 months after the birthday cake incident, I thought I was healing. I'd started therapy, joined a gym, even went on a few dates that my friends set. I was doing all the right things to move on. Then I met Marcus. He was everything Jake wasn't. Confident where Jake had been uncertain. Attentive where Jacob had been distracted. When Marcus looked at me, I felt like the only person in the room. When he texted, he responded immediately. When he made plans, he kept them. It felt like the universe apologizing for Jake. Deserve this. My best friend Emma said when I told her about him. Deserve someone who sees how amazing are. And I believed her. God. I wanted to believe her so badly. Marcus was a junior at the college across town, studying business. He had this way of making everything feel like an adventure. Late night drives to nowhere. Picnics in random parks. Dancing in his dorm room to music only we could hear. For 3 months, I felt like I was living in a romantic comedy. He'd show at my work with coffee. He'd leave little notes in my car. He made me feel special in ways Jake never had. I should have known it was too good to be true. The first appeared when I tried to surprise him at his dorm. Just like I'd done with Jake. Except this time I'd learned my lesson. No homemade cake. No big gestures. Just me, showing with his favorite snacks, because he'd mentioned having a rough day. His roommate answered the door with a confused look. Marcus. He's not here, he went home for the weekend to see his girlfriend. The words hit me like ice water. His girlfriend? Yeah, Rachel. They've been together since high school. She goes to state. Didn't know. I stood there holding a bag of chips and candy, feeling like the world's biggest fool. Again. I think there's been a misunderstanding, I managed to say. But there hadn't been. When Marcus finally called me back hours later, the truth came spilling out in a mess of apologies and explanations. Rachel was his real girlfriend, his serious girlfriend. The one his parents knew about, the one he was planning a future with. I was just fun. A distraction. Something to do while she was at a different school. It wasn't supposed to get this serious. He said, like that made it better. I really care about Sarah, but Rachel and I, we have history. We have plans. What about our plans? I whispered. What plans? And that's when it hit me. While I was fallen it hit me. He was just passing time. Every moment that felt magical to me was just entertainment to him. Every that made my heart race was just something he did when he was bored. I was someone's placeholder. Again. But this time, I didn't just walk away quietly. This time, something inside me snapped. Does Rachel know about me? I asked. The silence on the other end told me everything. Sarah. Please don't. Don't what? Don't tell actual girlfriend, that've been cheating on her for 3 months. It's complicated. No, it's not. It's actually really simple. We're a liar and a cheater, and she deserves to know. I hung and immediately found Rachel on social media. She was beautiful, obviously. They all are. Her profile was full of pictures of her and Marcus from high school. Prom photos. Family vacations. Christmas morning. A hole I'd been unknowingly intruding on. I stared at those photos for an hour, seeing in her place. Seeing the trust in her eyes. The confidence that came from believing boyfriend was faithful. I'd been where she was with Jake. And now, I was where that other girl had been. The one who'd stolen my boyfriend without even knowing I existed. The cycle was complete, and I was on the wrong side of it. I drafted a dozen messages to her. Long explanations. Short warnings. Screenshots of our conversations. But I couldn't send any of them. Because telling her would destroy her world the same way finding out about Jake had destroyed mine. So I did nothing. I blocked Marcus on everything and pretended none of it had happened. But the damage was already done. Not just to Rachel, who was living a lie without knowing it. Not just to Marcus, who was too much of a coward to make a choice. The damage was to me. I'd become someone I didn't recognize. Someone who could know about another woman and stay quiet. Someone who could be part of the betrayal instead of trying to stop it. Emma tried to console me. Didn't know, she said. It's not fault. But it was. Maybe not in the beginning, but definitely at the end. I knew about Rachel for 2 weeks, before I ended things with Marcus. 2 weeks where I kept seeing him, kept kissing him, kept pretending I was special while knowing I was just the other woman. I told her it was because I didn't want to Rachel. But the truth was simpler, and more selfish. I didn't want to lose Marcus. Even knowing he was choosing someone else, I wanted to hold on to the feeling of being wanted for just a little longer. I'd become everything I hated. Everything that had me. The worst part was how easy it had been. How quickly I'd gone from victim to accomplice. How naturally I'd slipped into justifying the unjustifiable. He cares about me too. I'd whispered to in the mirror. What we have is real, even if she was first. But I was wrong. What we had was built on lies, and lies don't make anything real. They just make forget what real feels like. 3 weeks after eye contact with Marcus, Emma showed me a photo from a mutual friend's Instagram. Marcus and Rachel at some campus event. Looking happy. Looking in love. Looking like the couple they'd always been while I was just a footnote in their story. I realized then that I'd learned all the wrong lessons from Jake. Instead of learning to value, I'd learned to settle for scraps. Instead of demanding honesty, I'd accepted whatever version of love someone was willing to give me. I'd become so afraid of being left behind that I'd agreed to never really be chosen in the first place. That night, I called my mom and told her everything. About Jake. About Marcus. About how I kept ending in the same place despite promising I'd be smarter. Honey, she said after a long silence. Can't keep blaming other people for the choices make. Jake was wrong to lead on, and Marcus was wrong to lie. But you're the one who keeps accepting less than deserve. She was right. I'd spent so much time being angry at the people who'd me that I never stopped to why I kept putting in situations where getting was inevitable. The answer was simple and devastating. I didn't think I deserved better. And until I figured out how to believe I was worth more than secret relationships and half-hearted love, I was going to keep recreating the same story with different people. The cake had been a symbol of everything wrong with how I loved. Desperate. Trying too hard. Hoping that effort could make for the fact that I was fighting for people who'd already chosen someone else. I needed to learn how to be the someone else. The one who got chosen first. The one who never had to wonder where she stood. But first, I had to figure out how to choose. 2 years later, I thought I'd figured it out. I was in therapy. Had a decent job, lived alone in a studio apartment that was mine and only mine. I'd sworn off relationships entirely, focusing on healing and self-discovery, and all the other buzzwords my therapist used. Then I got the wedding invitation. Jake and her. The girl with the professional cake. The one who'd been through mics on his birthday, while I stood in the cold lichen. The invitation was gorgeous, obviously. Elegant script on cream, colored cardstock. A fall wedding at some vineyard upstate. The kind of wedding I'd fantasized about having with him during those pathetic months when I thought we had a future. I almost didn't go. Emma begged me not to. Why, she said. Come so far. But I had to see it. Had to witness that could have been mine if I'd been different. Better. Worth fighting for. The wedding was perfect, of course. She looked radiant in a dress that probably cost more than my rent. Jake looked happier than I'd ever seen him. During the ceremony, when the officiant asked if anyone objected, I felt the sick urge to stand. Not because I wanted him back. But because I wanted someone, anyone, to acknowledge that I'd existed. That what we'd had mattered, even if it wasn't enough. But I sat there in silence. Wearing the black dress I'd bought specifically to look like I was thriving, feeling smaller with every word of their vows. The reception was worse. I watched them dance their first dance to a song he used to play when we were together. The same song. He'd recycled our memory and given it to her like it was new. That's when I saw Marcus across the room. He was there with Rachel. Beautiful, trusting Rachel, who still had no idea what kind of man she'd chosen. They looked happy too. Content. He caught my eye and had the decency to look ashamed, but not ashamed enough to stay away when I went to the bar. "Hey," he said, appearing beside me as I ordered my third glass of. "Don't. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. About everything. Though." I turned to face him. Sorry lied to me, or our sorry got caught." He didn't answer, which was rancer. "How is Rachel?" I asked, louder than necessary. "Sarah. Please. Does she know yet? About all the other girls? Because I know I wasn't the only one." His face went white. "What are talking about? Instagram is a wonderful thing, Marcus. Especially when girls start comparing notes in the comments." I wasn't lying. After our breakup, I discovered 2 other girls who'd been in similar situations with him. All of us thinking we were special. All of us wrong. "Can't tell her tonight. Please. Not here." "Why?" "Because it would her good time." Kind of like how finding out about Rude mine. But looking at Rachel across the room, laughing with friends, glowing with happiness, I felt sick again. Not because I wanted to her, but because I recognized something in her face. The same blind trust I'd had with Jake. The same confidence that her person would never betray her. I'd been planning to approach her all night. To finally do what I should have done 2 years ago. But watching her at this wedding, celebrating someone else's love story, I realized, the truth would destroy more than just her relationship. It would destroy her ability to trust her own judgment. Her faith in love itself. I'd learned that lesson the hard way, and look what it had made me. Bitter. Suspicious. Unable to believe anyone could actually choose me first. So I walked away from Marcus without another word, and left the wedding early, driving home through tears, that had nothing to do with Jake, and everything to do with the person I'd become. That night, I did something I'd been avoiding for 2 years. I wrote Rachel a letter. Not an angry or a dramatic confrontation. Just the truth, laid out simply and kindly. I told her about Marcus and me. About the other girls. About how she deserved to know so she could make her own choices. Then I sealed it, addressed it, and put it in my drawer. Next to 17 other letters I'd written and never sent. Because every time I was ready to mail it, I remembered how it felt to discover Jake's betrayal. The way it had shattered, not just my heart, but my entire sense of reality. How it had made me question every relationship I'd ever have. Did I have the right to do that to someone else? Even if it was the right thing to do. The answer kept changing depending on my mood, my guilt level, and how much I'd had. So the letters piled. And Rachel stayed in her bubble. And Marcus kept getting away with being exactly who he was. 6 months later, I ran into Emma at our old college coffee shop. She was glowing, practically vibrating with happiness. "I'm engaged," she squealed, showing off a ring that was modest but beautiful. "Remember David from my accounting class? We've been together for 8 months. And I know it's fast. But Sarah, he's incredible. He's honest and kind. And he makes me feel like I'm enough exactly as I am." I hugged her and said all the right things. But inside I felt hollow. Here was my best friend, finding the kind of love I'd spent years looking for, while I sat in my apartment writing letters I'd never send to girls I'd never save. "I want to be my maid of honor," she said. "I know weddings might be hard for everything, but are the most important person in my..." "Of course," I said. Because what else could I say? That I'd become the kind of person who couldn't celebrate other people's happiness. Because it reminded me of my own failures. Emma's engagement party was 3 weeks later. Small, intimate, just family and close friends. David was exactly what she'd described, genuine, attentive. Clearly crazy about her. During their toasts, he talked about how Emma made him want to be better. How she'd taught him what real partnership looked like. I watched them and felt something open inside my chest. Not jealousy exactly, but recognition. This was what I'd been looking for all along. Not the desperate intensity of my relationship with Jake, or the secret excitement of being with Marcus. Just simple, honest love between 2 people who'd chosen each other completely. That night, I went home, and finally sent one of the letters to Rachel. Not because I was brave or noble, but because I was tired. Tired of carrying other people's secrets. Tired of protecting feelings that weren't mine to protect. Tired of being complicit in lies that were everyone involved. Her response came 2 days later. Short, devastating, grateful. Thank for telling me. I suspected something but convinced I was being paranoid. We broke yesterday. I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again. But I'm glad I know the truth. I stared at that message for hours, wondering if I'd done the right thing, or just created another person like me. Someone who'd learned that love was a lie and trust was for fools. 3 months later, Emma's wedding was everything mine with Jake never would have been. Honest. Joyful. Built on a foundation that wouldn't crumble the moment someone prettier walked into the room. As her maid of honor, I stood at the altar watching her face as David said his vows. Real vows. About choosing her every day, about building it together, about love being a decision as much as a feeling. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, the church was silent. Not because no one had anything to say, but because everyone there genuinely wanted these two people to be happy together. That's when it hit me. The difference wasn't in the wedding or the venue, or even the people involved. The difference was in the foundation. Emma and David had built something real, something that could survive doubt and distance, and all the ordinary challenges that destroy relationships, built on prettier lies. I'd never had that. Not with Jake, who'd been looking for an exit from the moment things got real. Real. Not with Marcus, who'd been juggling multiple realities to avoid choosing any of them. I'd been so focused on being chosen that I'd never learned how to choose. I'd accepted whatever version of love people offered me, instead of demanding the kind worth having. The reception was winding down when Emma found me sitting alone at our table, staring at the remains of the wedding cake. Okay. She asked. I think I need to learn how to be alone. I said. Really alone. Not just waiting for the next person to disappoint me. She squeezed my hand. That might be the smartest thing I've ever said. 6 months later, I deleted all my dating apps. Stopped looking for someone to complete me, and started figuring out how to be complete on my own. Stopped writing letters to other women, and started rating them too. Started asking what I wanted instead of what I could get. It's been 2 years since Emma's wedding. I'm still single. Still learning that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. If actually like the person or alone with. Sometimes I wonder about Rachel. If she ever found someone who chose her first and only. If she learned to trust again, or if she's still carrying around the scars of Marcus's betrayal. Sometimes I wonder if Jake ever thinks about that birthday cake left sitting in his hallway. If he remembers me at all, or if I've been erased completely, replaced by better memories with someone who fit his without trying so hard. But mostly, I try not to wonder about anything, except how to be the kind of person who never has to stand in a cold hallway again, holding a cake for someone who's already a different one with someone else. The truth is, some stories don't have happy endings. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some trust can't be rebuilt. And some people never find their person. No matter how hard they try, or how much they change. But maybe the real ending isn't about finding love. Maybe it's about finding. About learning that can survive being left. Being betrayed. Being forgotten. And still somehow be worth something. Even if the only person who believes it is. That has to be enough, because sometimes it's all get.